Well, welcome everyone to today's webinar brought to you by RingUC and RingCentral. We're running this because we've seen the effect of coronavirus around the world and the impact it's having to businesses far and wide around Australia and around the world. And we believe that we can add some value here based on our experience. So before we get started, I just want to acknowledge that situation that we're currently in. And, it's as fellow businesses, colleagues and humans, it's our genuine thoughts go out there to those who have been directly affected by COVID-19. I can only imagine how hard it is to experience firsthand, when the greatest challenge I'm facing is extending to not seeing my parents. It's first world problems compared to those who've been directly affected. Today, however, I really want to focus on the positives, the observations and the potential remedies of the current state of play. We're really grateful to everyone who's made the time to be here on the call today. It's great to see so many people just taking time out of their day to come and take time to listen to what observations we've seen and how we potentially can help. I also want to put a big call out to my team and say a thank you, who without their fantastic effort and constant efforts, I wouldn't be doing this here today with you. Also a little bit of housekeeping. We're running this webinar with the usual functionality. So we've got a Q&A open. So if you've got any questions, feel free to post them in there. And if you've got anything you'd like to stop, ask a question midway through, please feel free to raise your hand. And whilst we're delivering this content, if we see a raised hand, we'll try and pause and take that question on the fly. Otherwise, if you don't mind holding, we'll make sure we capture those questions at the end. And if there's any that we've missed, we'll make sure we come back to you via email and respond to all of those questions as well. All right. So today I want to talk to you about how your business can embrace this, what we're seeing as the new normal. People working from home, there's lots of names for it at the moment, but we're seeing predominantly working from home and the new normal. Let me jump into this first slide. So today, your hosts are myself and Ben Swanson. I'm just going to cut it across to video for a second, just so everyone can see Ben and myself. I give you a little bit of background about me. I head up the team over here at RingUC. I've worked in telecommunication sector for over 15 years. I've enjoyed some great success across various roles. And I've learned over my decades in sales that the true value in great relationships is built on knowledge, honesty, and trust. And one of the reasons I wanted to provide today's webinar is wanting to share some of the transparency that we have and that of our customers and how they're managing this experience. Ben Swanson, who joins me from RingCentral, he's spent 20 plus years in the communication technology sector. He's had fantastic successes and insights from around the globe, and I'd like to hand over to Ben so he can just talk a little bit, speak to himself. Ben.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction there, Justin. And look, you're right that we're experiencing some very unprecedented times. A lot of challenges in not being able to see family and friends, the restrictions to work from home and self-isolate, even if, we all know somebody which I'm sure is very predicated to, not being able to deal with the diseases like the healthy people are. So whether it be the elderly, the sick. And so staying away from our loved ones is actually causing us, I guess, a lot more, anxiety from being in the home and spending, what used to be maybe a third of your life at home and a third in bed and a third at work. Well, those 3/3 are now made up from being in this one environment, and it's causing, it's a challenge for us that we're learning to adapt with. For myself as a technology provider, I've worked in this technology space of voice and unified communications now for about 20 years, right across Asia Pacific, running global businesses right through all the Asia Pacific rims. Is, you know, the world up until today was very focused around how do I build an office and make sure my office environment and culture is highly successful and everyone's high performance, if you know what I mean there. And then so the technology which enables that is actually going to be, you know, 95% of my workforce needs to be in the office and collaborate around a room, and my telepresence in the boardroom needs to connect to another telepresence. And this would be for us when we're talking about UC, your voice, your PBX, your video, and your internet all runs into one single portion. And, you know, my business continuity plan would be I need to pick everything up and go to another location and run that tomorrow. What the foresight never had is what our reality is today. And the new buying decision for customers will be 100% of my workforce needs to be able to operate in the home and remote environment. And so when you think about that just from a technology perspective, you know, I need to run over standard internet. You know, working from home, my hundreds, thousands, tens of employees must have access to some standard internet, whether it be from a mobile or your NBN ADSL connection, but it's not going to be high-grade internet. So whatever we choose, like we're talking to today on this technology, has to run over standard internet. And so what I'm finding with my team especially is, you know, we're going to have to, and I've already approved all of my members to, you know, just go get the best plan. Make sure you're the fastest in your block or your apartment building, because you've got to have a great experience with your customers. But then there's the other things like devices. You know, we're fortunate enough that we had laptops across our businesses, but not everybody does that. If you look at government departments, they've been building workstations which sit in a pod for 20 years. That person would sit there. You know, how do you uproot that and move that and do a work from home situation in a 2-week period? You know, these are the considerations. And then as we flip that over again, there's the softer side of, you know, what we're going through is, and I personally had this as a challenge for me in the first week. How do I get up and get motivated? I would say I'm one of the most motivated people ever, and I'm, you know, highly effective at what I do. I've never jumped out of bed and said, I don't feel like going to work today. But because I didn't have a workspace at home, I share with my wife works from home. That's her business. I find myself sitting outside. Hello, like this is me working outside in the courtyard. I found my workspace. I got up on a Sunday and I built it. And then you get up in the morning, you have a shave, you put your work clothes on, and you get ready to go, just like you do in going to the office. For me, I need to separate those areas and almost compartmentalize. Hey, that's one of the things I do. But, you know, these little things that we do in the workplace it just shows that, you know, we can adapt very quickly. But having the right technology that runs over these, you know, standard practices is one of the keys which really helps and will set the scene for what we're going to talk about today. So thanks for the intro, and I've probably gone on a little bit longer there, Justin, but I'll hand back to you to run through the next steps.
No, that's great. I really appreciate you providing some initial insights there. It is really interesting, and like you said, you know, to find ourselves in the situation, you know, you and I, having worked in technology, have worked from time to time remotely, and it's probably an easier step for us, but there's still that this is 100% remote now. And so having to find that space, and like you, my wife also runs her business from home. And so we have to create our own workspace, and it's important then to think about how you do that. And today I'd like to, you know, we'll go through some of those points as to how some of the best people are doing it and some of the challenges that we're still facing. And it's not perfect. And I think that's okay. You know, I met with one of the school mums going for coffee this morning, and she's at one of the large law firms who traditionally haven't ever allowed remote working, and yet now they're doing remote working, and people are becoming more accepting of things like the children walking in asking for an apple or chocolate, as the case usually is, let's face it. And so it's really interesting how that's evolving. But you're right, people need to be empowered with the right technology to be able to work remotely. Otherwise, it becomes.
And it's also the work practices that we impose. You just touched on a really good one there. I've heard of some HR departments which said you cannot work from home if you're at home with kids or co-workers. You must be the only. I mean, these are redundant in the world that we live in, because anyone with kids know I spend between 8:30 and 9:15 setting them up for the day with all the printed out materials, that now I become the de facto teacher. Well, I'm not teaching them much. It's more revision than me actually getting to learn new things, but that's another story. But, our 9 to 5 has changed, and the HR practices that depicted those are catching up for us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. All right, let's get into this, Ben. And
cool, thank you.
Share my screen. Thank you. All right, can you see that? There we go.
Yep, it's all through, ready to go.
Very good. All right, great. I might just ask the people who are watching, who are people watching from home, which I can say in this, if you can just raise your hand if you can hear me and see everything on the screen. That's great. We've got a few people raising their hands. Fantastic. All right, so the next slide I want to talk to is just our agenda for today. So what we want to talk to is a couple of key items that we want to talk about. Is about how learning from remote work experts, what we've seen from our customers, what Ben is seeing from his customers about how to manage a team out of the office, working from home. And then we'll round out today's webinar with talking about how you build and align a marketing strategy in response to this new normal that we're now living in. I just want to talk to our why. So this is, RingUC, before I get into the sort of guts of the presentation, in our experience over the last 15 plus years, we have seen technology really evolve in leaps and bounds, and yet we still see businesses held back by older technologies. And to be quite frank, it's frustrating, and it's one of the reasons why RingUC and the RingCentral partnership was born. We chose RingCentral because we wanted to bring this global leader in unified communications to our customers, so that we could deliver what we see as the best unified communications experience. I mean, and please don't just take my word for it, because they're our partner. Go and have a look online at some of the reviews, and you'll see even Gartner rate RingCentral as a leader in their Magic Quadrant for unified communications as a service. So it's really powerful stuff, and we, hand on heart, truly believe in the quality of the product and the solutions that they deliver, which is why we chose to partner with them. That's going to be about as salesy as I get today, people. So thanks for listening. I just wanted to be clear about that, because we are proud to partner with RingCentral. Okay. So we're managing a remote team. We're seeing so many people posting various things online about how they're managing a remote team, and hearing anecdotal information. And so there are a few key There are a few key components of managing a team remotely, which we want to share today. So first and foremost, I want to talk to this point, and that is that we are all human. This global pandemic that has brought everyone together for the first time, I think, in the history of the world, that everyone has been united to fight a single enemy, being this virus. And everything has stopped. Everything's paused that we see outwardly on the street. Now, businesses are still running, but people are still human, and people have different reactions to things. So one of the things for me, if I'm honest, I feel really confident. I'm comfortable, and not just because of my position that I have a role and a job, and I have a roof over my over my head, but because more than that, more that I feel confident that we will get through this and that we'll survive, and life will go on. It may be slightly different, but that not everybody has that same response to me. Some people are finding this time incredibly challenging. And so as we work with our teams and employees, it's important that we give them the space to honor how they're feeling, and that they may be nervous. They may find this time incredibly challenging. You know, at the start, Ben mentioned that the point of someone who's incredibly dedicated and hardworking found it hard to find motivation in this new environment. You know, it's a real shift, even for people who are successful and call themselves a hard worker, and they're now having these new challenges. And so we need to respect that and honor that in our people too, when we speak to them, and understand as leaders, it's our responsibility to take this time to allow each of our team members to be heard and to be understood. Now, the next one is probably the biggest, and it's the biggest and from so many leaders around the world I've read, the key component to any of this is communicate. You know, and we must communicate openly and frequently with our people. You know, even when there's no update to be given, it's still important to reach out with exactly that message. You know, whether it's a daily update, you say, I've got nothing new for you guys today, but just wanted to touch base and say, hello, how are you doing? You know, those touch points is where we're seeing, if you look to the global leaders of the nations around the world, you know, the one that springs to mind is Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand. How well she communicates to her people has been so well received, because she's open and clear and just continually communicating with her people. Now, the flip side of that is other world leaders, and I'm not going to go naming names. I'm sure you can pick your own, but there's people who are sporadic in their information and misinformation, and that only adds to confusion. So if we look to the great examples of just communicating openly, honestly, we can only leap forward. The other part of this is taking ownership. So taking ownership of what steps are being taken at a high level. You know, owning that, and it's new. This is all new ground to all of us. So we're learning and experiencing this situation as it develops, as much as our teams are too. And so it's important that we communicate that. You know, your business leaders must also make themselves accessible and visible, even if that's virtually. You know, whilst they may be typically at the desk, and the people would go over to their desk and have a conversation with them, or their concerns and challenges they're facing, that's now not available. So now it's important that we make ourselves available as leaders virtually, and we're able to be contactable, whether that's on via a messaging app, whether it's via video conferencing, whether it's via a telephone call. All those different forms are available. The other part to this as well is around simplifying accountability, explaining what our expectations of employees are, discuss what they said they'd do, and let them do their work. You know, there's a big part of this is around trust, that we now take this time to actually, we're not there. There's not an opportunity to micromanage anymore. You really have to trust in our employees out there that they're actually doing the work they said they'd do. And that may be different. It may not be as the same work they were doing before, but that we're trusting in what that we have tasked them with doing, and that they're comfortable as we navigate this new ground. Okay. The next slide, I want to talk to you about systems, software, and resources. So, I said a couple of slides ago, it was as salesy as I was going to get. So this is not a pitch to say you should be on RingCentral. Well, kind of is, but the point I want to make here is that it's really important to provide your teams and people with the correct tools. It's going to play a huge determining factor into their success, and then yours as a business. You know, we provide as a business, all of our employees with the tools of unified communications that allows them to communicate on whichever platform they're on, whether it's on a phone or a laptop, whether they're communicating through messaging, whether they're communicating through video conferences, video meetings, file sharing. These tools are so incredibly useful in keeping a team working in a rhythm and continuing to maintain a cadence that we would typically see in an office environment. These use of unified communications as a service is that taking that cloud viewpoint on this, rather than having just standard systems that reside on a machine, because it's important that they're able to be scaled up and scaled down as our business grows or indeed shrinks. And the other part of this is around embracing new ways of communicating. So once we provide these systems and software resources, it's important that we're able to perhaps find new ways, that we haven't necessarily had to do in the past. That people, instead of saying good morning to someone as you walk in the door, that we take that time to have a video, what we call in the software business, we have a stand-up. So it's a daily ritual that happens in an office, and it's a typical, everyone literally stands up and we have a talk through of the task that we're going to be doing that day. Now, remotely, we can't do that. So we have a video call. So everyone has a daily stand-up and we talk to each other. Everyone sees each other's face. We look each other in the eye and we have that conversation. And we're getting that human connection through the power of video. And it's a really powerful tool that we're finding super, super useful. The next slide I want to talk to as well talks to something we've kind of touched on already, and that's physically working, in this home environment and often crowded home environments. Either unless you're single, you've either got a partner that you're now co-working with, or like me, a family of kids as well, and animals that invariably bark during calls, or kids that want feeding, and that's challenging. It's how do we find ourselves to the ability to manage not only the current situation we're in, but also the complexities of working from home. As we've just discussed in the previous slides, while we're sharing this crowded space and having that blurred line between home and work. Kitchens, dining rooms, and other spaces have become offices. Ben, for example, has got a courtyard as his office. These things are really shifting how we're now working in our home environment. In our business, we found that there are three things that have been of huge benefit, most benefit to myself and our people, and that is, the first one's routine. So this sounds really basic, but I'm just going to go there. It's getting up, getting showered, breakfast, turn up. It's still working. It's just a little different. The second one is around creating workspaces. So everybody creating their workspace, like Ben said, he's created a workspace in a courtyard where he's built himself a workstation that is his space away from where his family is. I've done the same. Mine is a formal dining table, and I have my workspace set up there. And then talking through that with what those workspaces mean to each member of the family, so they understand that this is a workspace, and then segregating that between that workspace and what is a home life. So one of the things that has been identified is ideal to have one or two rooms of the houses that have zero work in whatsoever. So for my household, that's the lounge room. There's no work done in the lounge. There's a TV in there. There's an Xbox that gets turned on probably once a week if the kids are lucky. Harsh parent over here. And that's to allow us to have that segregation between what is work and what we determine as home life. And the third one that's been the most beneficial is connect. Whether that's a virtual coffee, and you literally both go out and get a coffee and then come and sit with your takeaway cup and have a coffee together and just have a chat. And it can be about work, or it can be about the normal things that you'd normally have a coffee over. Whatever that is, that makes a difference, because it's about that human connection. For us, we've also done after work drinks. We haven't done it each day, but we've been doing them on Fridays. Everyone comes along, there's no work talk and there's no virus talk. So that's one of the rules we've put in place. I know from speaking with other colleagues at other places, they do have a separate meeting room if people want to go and talk about the virus. But we're trying to keep it clean and try and keep it light and as positive as possible. The other thing as well with this connection is allow, if you're a parent, allow your kids to make use of these great tools that we have. Allow them to make use of your video conferencing facilities. Let them organize a meeting and connect with their colleagues, their mates. You know, they have just as much as need for connection as we do, if not more, because they're used to playing in the playground. And you know what? It gives you a break as well. It's great. So they go on there for an hour and you overhear amazing conversations like they're mini adults. It's a really nice and refreshing thing to see. And I think it's great that we have these tools that we're able to share with our families. Okay, sorry, I'm just checking my notes. I think that's really what I wanted to cover from that perspective. What I might do is actually cut over to Ben and see what Ben's thoughts are on this. If you have anything to add, Ben, I might just go to video so we can see.
Happy to jump in there. That'll be good. Yeah, you touched on a few things that we implemented as well. So we worked out in the first week that we had to put a standing weekly meeting and get everyone connected as leaders of our business, myself and the fellow sales leader, Peter Hughes. We said, okay, we've just got to get everyone together. We had to communicate at the early stages what's going on, what's happening for the business around, do we come to work every day? You know, what is our guidance on travel? And all in those early days, we didn't know what to do. And the reason for that is we would normally have 10 people traveling at any given week across either the country or internationally, just in the Australian business alone. And so that's a level of uncertainty. We had people on visas here, which were working in our project management team from the US, also, you know, wondering, do I stay? Do I go? These real life situations where we had, you know, apartment buildings rented for another 3 to 6 months, where that we had planned to get temporary or permanent visas for some of our staff, but they were living in literally hotels. And so we had to make some decisions around that. And as you say, communicate was the most effective way to keep everyone aligned. And a lot of the time, you never know the answers. You accept what you know and you accept what you don't know, but you keep on talking and communicating. That particular meeting moved very quickly from being weekly to what we called a happy hour huddle. So half an hour at 4 o'clock, we get together. If somebody wants to have a beer, sure, turn it on. You're at home anyway, but we would celebrate any wins. We would talk about the shifts in trends with our customers. We'll talk about some of what our existing customers were facing and how we could help them. So that became a daily call. And the other thing that I did with my team as well was I started calling them every day. So at the moment we were remote, if let's say you got a team of 10 people, maybe 5 or 6 of them report to you, a 15-minute call a day plus, you know, 4 or 5 peers. Before you know it, you spend more than half your day just connecting with your staff. So as a manager of people, don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm just checking. Most of my day is being a manager. That's your job. So don't be afraid to be saying that, because you'll also take on side tasks as what you normally would in an office. You know, you say one thing, you tell 10 people once. You know, you repeat it 10 times, 10 different ways. It always gets told in an open office environment that everybody can hear. However, in this environment, you've got to say it 10 times, 10 different ways to one person, times all the people in your particular team. So that's quite a lot of time, and you don't always have that. So these side projects which you normally take on need to be cut down and rationalized. And that's a really important factor of how do you prioritize your strategic items in your day, and your team has to be number one. That's the bottom line. The other thing that I did as well was actually, rather than my weekly team call, which was always in an office on a session like this every day, once a week on a Friday, we actually said, put your runners on, grab your dogs, let's go for a walk through the bush. And turn your video on, get your selfie stick, and we'll walk around, choose your location. I went down to the North Sydney Balls Head down there and actually just went through the coal loader and had a nice walk through the bridge and, kept 1.5 meters away from everybody. So that's what we're doing now, and it kind of gets everybody out and about while still connecting with the team. So, some of the softer touches as well is a really important aspect of how we get through this.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Really, really good, really good insights, Ben. It's as you say, the one of the pickup in the early days for us was similar. You miss the water cooler talk, the corridor conversation. So oh yeah, I'm glad I've seen you. I just want to mention this, and so we touch on 1 or 2 points that we wanted to. Is a corridor conversation in passing as you walk past between meetings, and we now have to have that through a scheduled call or a phone call to that person, and then we need to make that same call to 2 or 3 or 5 other people and have those same conversations said in different ways. So you're so right. It's really interesting, isn't it? And then of course the knock-on effect is those side projects that you otherwise would have time for now you need to streamline. It's just just on.
Exactly right. That's it. What the reality is, I might have 5 or 6 yesterday. I'm sitting with 1 or 2, and I'm going to do them really well, and I'm not going to dilute them. Yeah.
Really good. Interesting. Really good. All right. Cool. I will jump back into the slides because I just want to continue with the next couple as we get into the marketing side. So, and the reason we wanted to touch on this is that from both our perspective at RingUC and RingCentral, we have had to evaluate what we're doing. How do we build an aligned marketing strategy for this new normal? One of the challenges that we identified early on was we have a solution that helps people in this exact situation. We have solutions that help people work remotely, and how do we deliver that out and serve businesses around Australia with this amazing solution without seeming to profiteer from it? This isn't an opportunity for us to rub our hands together and make lots of money. This is an opportunity where we can genuinely go and help people in a situation where they may be restricted. Excuse me. And so we had to really sit down and get our heads together as a business, and I'm sure RingCentral have done the same to evaluate what they're doing and how they go about marketing. So the first part of this is, how do you align that message? And the reason I've chosen this picture here is that many businesses have chosen to pull their marketing budget completely and just go on radio silence. They're just not marketing to anyone. There is no budget for them to spend, or they've decided to not talk to this at all, so they're not associating their brand with the virus that's going on. And so for us, what we looked at is how we address this as a business, by looking at it and saying, we acknowledge that this is occurring, and the market that we were previously addressing is not necessarily the right market for us. So where we were previously addressing the large enterprise, that play isn't necessarily the same for us. It's not the same message we need to be delivering. There are other businesses that have a more urgent requirement to be addressed by what we serve. And so how do we then pivot and change our business to then talk to them? And one of the first things that we identified was around that acknowledgement. So acknowledging this as a situation, finding how we're able to add value without charging, so not trying to profiteer from that, and then seeing how else we can ensure that that partnership that we deliver through RingCentral also adds value to their business at the same time as being able to get their business up and running as quickly as possible so that they are then still able to trade as a business. And that's where we see the real value, is how that you deliver that message. So that was the first point for us. The next one was around this selling without profiteering. And so this can be incredibly challenging. So where we have, we're still a business, we still operate to make money. However, there are certain boundaries that we have put in place as a business to say, instead of us charging for all of these items, how do we go about looking at delivering more value layered on top of what we're charging for? So there are elements that we've built within the business, and we'll see those through our marketing campaigns, that we are made sure that our messaging is aligned to that, and that we continue to value stack on top rather than continue to discount. So there's obviously some discounts that we've put in place, but there are also more value that we've added on top. Ben, can you talk to this too, some of the things that you have gone about? And do you want me to go to the next slide, or I'll let you talk first?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just hang on this slide for a sec. We've seen some massive change upon us in such probably the shortest period of time we'll ever experience in our lifetimes, and I hope this is the only time. And when you look at what as you apply this to technology, you know, the term ambulance chasing comes to mind when, you know, people are profiteering from these environments of, you know, selling toilet rolls, which are, you know, dollars a roll instead of cents. And as you can see, they're empty shelves. You know, our customers which were already using our service, you know, they come to the environment where they say, you know, my income is just being stretched from, you know, coming in from week to week, and now I don't look like having getting any revenue for the next, you know, series of months. You know, can you give me some clemency? Or I need to scale down my business from being, you know, call it 100 users to 100 employees down to 60, and so some elasticity between our service needs to come in. So those existing customers, certainly the first thing you need to do is look after your existing customers which use your services or your particular product which you're offering to them. And so showing that level of compassion and looking after the long term is the most important asset to your business, because you look after a customer in this time of need, you know, you're going to have a customer for life, and that's one of the philosophies that we'll certainly always embrace. And then there's the customers which, or even potential customers which are in a pickle right now, and how do you get them out of the situation? And that is, you know, I've got this old technology, I can't take it into a work from home environment, or I've been down the path of about to select a vendor and now my needs have changed, and so I'm looking at how do I work over standard internet. I need to work from the devices that anyone has available to them at home or a mobile. And these are the things that actually we've been able to respond to. Some of the customers which were already in the valuation of technology, you know, were able to, you know, really meet their demands quickly by using a cloud-based analogy, not like Netflix or Disney Plus. You know, when you use that and access that content, you know, how long does it take you to sign up and access it? Well, it needs to be minutes. You know, you can't wait months for phone numbers to become available and start ringing on the desk, or that video service like we're using today. And so those customers which were in evaluation of technology, literally I can talk to a mining services company which made a decision on a Friday, and by the Monday they provide telehealth services to 60 locations right across Australia. They actually had those telehealth services turned on for their medical service departments in these mining locations for every single one of them on the Monday. So they were using a laptop, and they were just using standard, you know, technology, not the advanced, you know, we could send them out eye cameras and all these other things, but we were able to provide them the service over the weekend and get them up and running, which is quite an amazing feat.
Yeah,
the way we were able to do that is, it's pretty amazing, right?
Yeah.
The way we're able to do that is I talked to Netflix and Disney Plus. Well, a cloud service means that all you need is a user profile. You need to pay for it, and then you need to download or access that content. And there's 3 levels through an application is, I've got a user profile, I download an app, and then I'm making calls and video sessions like we're doing today. So that's one example of how we've helped a new customer, which is quite amazing. Sorry, Justin, you were making comments there.
No, I was just saying it's that's incredible to be able to get them up and running over particularly over a weekend. It shows the dedication that I think we in the communications sector, we've taken this extra step, that we've gone, okay, we can help here, and we, like you, your team has stepped up and over the course of a weekend taken steps and actions to get them up and running. And it's all doable. We live in the age where excuse me, where technology is there for our benefit. We are humans, and we're making technology work for us, not the other way around. And I think, hats off to you and your team that they're able to be flexible enough to help organizations like that. It's really, really hats off to you.
Yeah. Look, it was the right time, right place, but most importantly, we have the technology which was able to do that, and it kind of leads to our offer that we have for any of the healthcare services around the COVID-19. If you want to move on to the next slide, we'll talk to what we're doing around any service, office, or company that is looking after this COVID-19, trying to manage their way through this, whether it be a not-for-profit, and education, including universities now, all healthcare industries. We've expanded this to public relations and public sector. There's any organisation which is now fighting to keep alive, patients or businesses and keep the communications flow around this. And we actually are providing a 90-day service for up to 100 employees to use this technology at absolutely zero cost. We'll turn it on instantly for them. We'll give them free access to video meetings with up to 100 participants on it. It's got messaging and a phone number. So all you need to do is just download these software and use it. If you choose to keep it afterwards, that's completely up to you. But this is, from our side, completely altruistic. We want you to have the technology that we've already got built. We've already got built capacity in our data centers. So why not use it, and why not get it out there? So if there's anybody which needs this, just come back to RingUC and say, I'm interested in what you've got to offer for me. So a really great opportunity just to connect your workforce, and that's what it's about.
Yeah, brilliant. Really, really good. That's it's a fantastic offer you're putting out there to have the full suite of services available to them they can make use of, and just keep those lines of communication open. It's really pivotal to have that there for them. We have yet to launch this. We're launching it in the next week or so, but we've actually decided to take the step of actually having a care and nurture program that we're running with our customers, where for the first 3 months of their life on RingCentral, we're actually going to touch base with them at regular intervals and have sessions where we recover content of where they're at and how they're experiencing the platform, so that we can keep them making use of everything, rather than people jumping in and falling back into old habits of just relying on the phone. I just pick up the phone and it's a different soft phone, I just use the phone. Let's get people actually working with this and helping them adopt it across their organization. So that's something we'll be putting out there in the next week or two.
Yeah, that's an interesting component. Well, probably, let me restate, the most important part of change management is the reinforcement of the change, rather than assuming that everybody's already changed after they get the new technology. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we've all been to enough training webinars and seminars where we go to training and it's great on the day, and then a week later we're back into the old pattern. And so having that change and like you say, maintaining it all the way through is really how we get the change to occur across the organization. Fantastic. All right.
I will open now to questions and see if we've got any questions come through. I haven't checked the Q&A. We haven't got any questions come through at the moment. I'll just give people a couple of minutes. Was there anything else you wanted to add in there, Ben, or are you good at the moment?
Yeah, look, I think I covered the majority of what I'm seeing in the marketplace. You know, you've covered a really interesting segment here on managing teams, and you know, I think we could, you know, pick up any book out there from Jim Collins, and not one of them will cover how to manage a remote team when it's 100% remote like this. The world has really not written any books for this. We're learning along the way is the right way to place this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very true. We've got one question come through that we've got. I believe this is for me. It's we've got an ad running at the moment that offers a free report, and the question is, what information does the report provide? So the report provides a depending on the type of system you've got, we're able to actually access your platform through credentials and actually go into your system and find out the number of service packs, the number of users you have on your system, what systems are in place, and able to provide you a high-level overview of all of your users, all of your current service level packs that you have on your existing phone system, and that will then help you shape what a potential future state looks like, or potentially just give you visibility, which often a lot of people just don't have with their current provider. That's it's what we've seen. One of our frustrations that we saw over the years in telecommunications is that that's just not visible to so many businesses, and we have the technology where we're able to provide that really seamlessly through this report. Just one second, I'm going to follow up to that. Is it secure? It is a secure report, yes, and your existing provider would not know that report's been requested, because what we utilize is your current credentials that are logged into your system, and it's just a system generated report. So it would be like your computer just creating a log, and we're able then to poll the system, pull the information back, and generate a simple report for you that's yours to keep. And we find with so many of our customers, they find it super valuable. Whether they choose to utilize our services or not, it gives them great visibility and absolutely secure. That is the. I don't think I have any other questions. That's great. All right. Well, just to summarize, I want to just go back over what we've covered really briefly. I appreciate everyone taking the time to listen today and be here with us. Ben, thank you for joining and providing some of your amazing insights that you've seen around the region and here and now with this current situation. There's
my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. You know, we touched on the importance of this new normal and how important it is to remember that we're all human. We have got to communicate and be open and clear and transparent with our teams and our customers alike. You know, I may have not mentioned that before, but it's important that we take the same view with our customers. They want to hear from us just as much as our teams do. The systems, software, and resources are critical to making this work. If we don't have the right systems and solutions in place, then people are out there in no man's land not knowing what to do. And also then having that ability to distinguish between home and work. Our home has now become our workplace, and really being clear on making that delineation between what is home life and what is work life. It's so easy to blur that line and end up with people in burnout. We just don't need to do that if we take some civil steps and take those practices of establishing and creating those segregations through creating workspaces and having open conversations with our families and partners and co-workers, being the dog or cats in Ben's case. And then we touched on the how we're marketing, how you align your model to now marketing in this market without being seen to profiteer from this. You know, I don't think anybody wants to be seen to be profiteering in this circumstance, but we do need to still be serving our customers and being able to deliver value to them. And that's really it for me. That's all I wanted to cover off today. I'm very grateful for everyone coming along and joining and taking the time out of their day. Thank you once again, Ben. Did you have any closing remarks you wanted to make, mate?
No, I'd just like to echo your sentiments with thanking everyone for joining, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's been a really informative session.
Yeah, very good. All right, well, thanks very much, Ben. Much appreciated. You enjoy the rest of your day and however many virtual meetings you have got coming up, I'm sure.
All right.
Very good.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks, everybody.